one of the challenges that, we are collectively experiencing as a human currently, and I would say for quite a while now, probably centuries by the sounds of things, is that our external environment is not supportive to living in a state of ventral. Mm-hmm. And so there are obvious things about the external environment not being supportive to living in ventral, such as, abuses, war, physical threats, things like that. And then there are other less obvious factors, right? Like our drive to earn money as survival, and therefore, having to work and always being in a state of fear that there'll never be enough, right? For example, that's not as obvious as a factor as those other larger external factors that contribute to us remaining trapped in survival stress. Obvious things such as worry about health or an illness or being diagnosed with a disease, all those factors will trigger the survival system and pull us out of being in ventral. Even things such as chemicals in our atmosphere, the isolation of how we live, the ways in which our buildings are constructed. They're not constructed to be engaged with the natural world. They're very isolating and very linear. Lack of color, like there's just so many things within our external environment that make it hard for us to shift into ventral. On top of our histories of not having had our attachment needs met, for example, set up, which by the way is like the majority of our human population within the Western culture specifically. But because of that, then there is this kind of foundation that has been laid where there is this low grade insecurity that's pulsing through us kind of throughout as a human, as a socially engaged species, as we're searching to experience the rest in attachment and belonging that we all so desperately need. Because when we get that rest and attachment, then we shift into ventral. One of the things about the whole polyvagal framework is that we actually need another human nervous system. It is said we need another human nervous system to help us shift out of dorsal. There are people who've questioned, like, can animals be enough? Could nature be enough, right? And supposedly the act of another human nervous system is, I guess, more potent. But obviously having connection with those other sources of comfort will definitely help us. So we are designed to be in constant connection with one another and to support each other to experience more of that ventral resting place. And then from that place, joy is the byproduct. So kind of like fear and anger are the byproduct of sympathetic, meaning we're not thinking about cultivating fear or anger, right? It emerges as a property. It emerges as a byproduct. We don't think about being in despair or shame. It emerges as a result of being in a state of such disconnection, collapse, and immobilization. So we don't have to necessarily think about joy. It is what would emerge as a result of resting in ventral. The question that is posed in response to that, that is part of the conscious creation program and the materials that are shared, is how do we rest in the state of ventral, which is the state of creation and joy? How do we access that when we know everything outside of us is a shit show? Basically, let's just right? When we know that there are multiple reasons, that there are many different forces, that there are histories of traumas upon traumas upon traumas, right? When all of that exists, how can we shift a state, even in the face of that? Yeah, hang on one sec. And then I just want to finish that thought. So, of course, it's there. Hang on. So how do we shift a state even when we know? Oh, and so as Joe Dispenza says, generally speaking, we focus our attention on the familiar past and we try to change what's outside of us, right? Hence activism, all of that, right? We're trying to change something that's outside of us. We're trying to change the environment. We're trying to escape a situation. We're trying to, basically putting all of our effort and energy outside of us. And then, of course, as we know, very rarely does it change. And so we're exerting all this energy and we're staying in states of survival as a result of it. And so the risk is, and the request is, can we actually focus our energy and attention towards the possibility of something else through using our internal resources without needing to change the outer world? That's the question. How do we shift towards ventral by cultivating that state internally without needing to change the outer environment first? And then as we change the inner environment, as we change our inner landscape, the outer world shifts as well. And that is why doing this kind of work is so hard, because our nervous system, its reaction, its biological reaction, is to pull our attention to the outer world. And so if we're in a state of survival, if we're in a state of trauma, all that energy and attention is on survival, and it's all being externalized. And it's really, really challenging to turn the attention towards the inner atmosphere and focus on shifting a state when everything out there is chaos. We're not designed to do it. So we're actually going against what biology is designed to do. And biology is responding to its environment. And this is why in the course layout, the next course lesson that I included was this idea of a matrix, which is just the simplest way of saying that we're living within a program. And the program has results. And we are living those results. Does that make sense? So the program has been designed. And the impact of that program is horrendous, right? Syria is an example of the impact of that program. So many things are a result of the impact of that program. So recognizing that we're within a program and what's happening outside of the program is horrendous, and the impact that that's having on me and my nervous system and my mind system and my heart system and my spiritual system is horrendous. We have to see it as such so that we can trust and believe that there might be something else. There might be a way to actually generate a different kind of program, even if it's within ourselves.